everyone. Welcome back to the ASPA podcast. My name is Karen Nickelman, and I am the marketing coordinator here at ASPA. Today we are with Marco Holland and Dayton Hibbs. They are both from the Marietta City Schools in Atlanta, and they are going to speak to us about employee relations. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Karen.
How are
Good morning.
you?
Wonderful. I'm thrilled to be here with you on this podcast. We're excited about sharing a little bit. I'll introduce my colleague here. I'll let my colleague Dayton Hibbs introduce himself. I'm Marco Holland, Chief Human Resource Officer for Marietta City Schools. I've been an educator now for 24 years with a background as a principal for about 15 years and central office leadership for a couple of years. And this will be my third year in this seat. In Marietta, we have approximately 9,000 students with about 1,500 employees. That's estimated on the high end. We are probably a middle-sized district, and I have a team of 9, but four of the employees in our human resource office are half-timers, so we have a lot of experience. And Dayton and I joke all the time. We have over 250 years of experience in our office. And I'll let Dayton share a little bit about himself.
Sure. I am Dayton Hibbs, and my career started out in South Florida, where I served as a teacher and then an administrator. And then I have served in the Marietta City School District for about 20 years. I've been blessed to serve in several roles, including principal in 3 of our schools. And then I have held capacities in our central office. I am currently a director in our HR department. And as Marco mentioned, we are a small and mighty team, so we cover a lot of areas. But my primary areas of responsibility include employee relations, recruitment, and retention.
Okay, great. Thank you for the intro. So let's start with the questions. So what do you guys think are the primary responsibilities of HR professionals in managing employee relations within an organization?
In summary, we serve as the mediator. We often are the go-between or liaisons between the district office and the employees. We have to be key listeners and also negotiating compliance issues and making sure the employees feel supported, but we're also doing the right things ultimately for our students. I have a role in managing performance and providing support to our executives, our directors, and our folks in leadership positions. We facilitate and help our academic office develop and design training. And we are working in close proximity with all of our divisions to ensure that policies are being adhered to. So a lot of times we are liaisons, we're managers, and I like to frame our work with an acronym that I got from John Maxwell, and it's called CARE. It means that we serve primarily communication, making sure that we communicate effectively what our organizational goals are, the things that we do. We want to operate in a way that people feel affirmed by the organization and that they know that we are committed to their success as well as our students. We want to be able to offer recognition and making sure employees know that we recognize the work that they're doing, the value that they bring to Marietta City Schools. And then we want to be able to lead by example. And that's in a nutshell how I see our role.
Mm-hmm. And how does HR balance the needs of employees with the goals and policies of the organization?
I believe in a general sense that if you are taking care of your employees, then meeting your organizational goals should follow. It's very easy to get tunnel vision as you're trying to reach those goals, as you're trying to address the issues of the day. But at the same time, we need to be very self-aware in understanding that it's extremely important to listen and respond to the needs of our employees. You can't lose sight that this is a people business and that we have to ensure that we are a very open organization, that you can come in and speak to us to express your thoughts and opinions, and that we're going to be extremely responsive to our employees, creating a situation to where they have a high degree of buy-in. And I think if we're doing that, and we're doing that consistently and effectively, then we're going to meet our goals, right? Because they are going to want to jump on the bus. They're going to want to be a part of this effort. They're going to want to be a part of the team because they truly feel like they're a member of the team.
Okay, and can you maybe name a few strategies that HR can implement to resolve conflicts between employees or between employees and management?
Yeah, one of the things we do in Marietta that's unique, oftentimes we have a policy that's designed for employee to file a grievance, but we don't wait until it rises to that level before we interact or get involved. We take phone calls. One strategy we employ, we have a director of employee relations, and anytime an administrator or a manager or even an employee has a conflict, we're willing to come out and engage in active listening to serve as a mediator, not to use policy as who's wrong and who's right, but really serve as a third neutral party to try to get to the bottom of how do we resolve this conflict before it escalates. Naturally, we have policy that allows it to escalate, but I found that by being preventative and proactive and simply engaging in active listening, mediation tends to be very, very effective for us. This week, we've had conflicts with a manager and a cafeteria monitor, and it was neat to go out to sit down and watch Darren work his magic by listening to each employee's side before it became an issue for the principal to involve. So because we have 12 schools and we can be very, very active, everything bubbles back up to the central office and we're able to be very, very active in an efficient way that doesn't hurt our productivity. So that's a strategy that we employ, and we found a high level of success by being proactive and listening to those small concerns before they get to be bigger. And we're willing to take calls from the employees as well as the supervisors without it being something formally in writing and adhering to a policy. I think that's one strategy we use. Another piece that we use is Dayton has a process where he's reaching out to employees through surveys and using that to gain a filter or gaining a really good feel of where employees are and how they're feeling, so we can respond and use that data to make adjustments along the way. We typically give out surveys 2 or 3 times a year just to gauge where employees are. And more recently, we found out that our mentoring program needs a bit of enhancing. Although we do have a formalized mentoring program, what our new and second year teachers are saying that although we are new to Marietta, we're teachers, we just have not employed long-term or very effective mentors in working with veteran teachers who are new to our district. So the survey process is another strategy that we've employed to help us understand how employees are really feeling, and it empowers us to use the data to make adjustments along the way.
Mm-hmm. And how do you manage to build trust with your employees to reach like a full, open, honest communication?
Sure. So building collective efficacy and trust in the organization is absolutely paramount. And I know this may sound a bit cliche, but in terms of the leadership across our district, it's very important that we mean what we say and do what we mean, right? So that we follow through on our promises. As Dr. Holland mentioned, we have avenues in place to listen to our employees, but we also need to act upon that listening. And that's where that trust is built. So follow through is critical. It's important. We have to ensure that if we are listening and we're responding to our employees and we deliver a promise, we have to follow through with that promise. I think it's also extremely important that we're not making decisions in isolation. And that has to be threaded throughout our entire organization, from the cabinet level to our principals, down to our collective staffs. And that could be a school staff, and that could be our transportation staff. They need to be a part of the decision-making process. And when they're a part of that process and they make recommendations and they see those recommendations come to life, that's how that trust is built. I think, and I mean this in a good way, but I believe that we also have to be predictable leaders, right? So once that trust is built, your employees will build a sense of We understand how this leader is going to respond to situations. We know that they're going to be open. We know that they're going to communicate constantly and effectively. I think a really great recent example is we've had some really fun weather in the Atlanta area. And our superintendent does an amazing job reaching out to all of our stakeholders, whether that's our employees or the parent community, keeping them constantly informed, even if it's to say, I'm still thinking about it, right? So that constant communication, that open dialogue is extremely important. And just to sum this up quickly, I think people need to understand the why. So if you are making a decision to be very transparent about it, and sometimes not everyone will agree necessarily, but they are going to respect the transparency in a leader or a team, our HR department, explaining why we are doing these things. And I think, as you package all of that together, you truly can build that sense of collective efficacy and trust.
Okay, great. So, and to wrap up the conversation, what role does HR play in ensuring that workplace policies are fair and equally applied to all employees?
I think Dayton hit a few highlights there about collective efficacy, and he gave a great summary about our why. And I think some of that deals with being approachable, transparent, and consistent from an HR lens. Ultimately, we set guidelines and policy, but more importantly, we want to be able to articulate in a very real way how the work aligns to our why, which ultimately leads back to our student learning outcomes. We maintain a bit of flexibility by active listening, but our role really becomes in terms of transparency and consistency of guidelines to make sure that not only are we delivering through consistent behaviors and responses, but fairly. And we ensure that all employees feel like they're heard, they're valued, and they understand the why. So it's really about getting back to that why and why we operate this way, and being willing to listen and make adjustments where needed. So while we have regulations and policies, sometimes, candidly, we allow ourselves to get in a box of not thinking outside of that box. And one of the things we pride ourselves on as a district is this idea that we value innovation and creative thinking. So when it's time to make an adjustment or a pivot or a shift, we are willing to do that and make adjustments to policy that our Board of Education has done a phenomenal job of being creative around, taking the time to listen to employees, being transparent and communicating effectively. Going back to the acronym I referenced earlier, the CARE framework, which is communicating, affirming, recognizing, and leading by example.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank you both for the great conversation today. Do you guys have any social media for people to connect you want to share with us?
So our district has a very robust social media approach. You can very easily find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook, all the major social media outlets. Just look up Marietta City Schools. Don't confuse us with the one in Ohio. We're the one in Georgia. And you will find ample information about our school district. We really like to put the good news out there in terms of showing to, quite frankly, a lot of that's for our community, but it's also used as a recruitment tool, right? Because we want to show others what the value proposition could be in working for Marietta City Schools. If you want to connect with either myself or Marco directly, of course, you can find us on LinkedIn, and we would welcome folks to reach out to us.
And if you go to LinkedIn and put in Teach Marietta, it's been our trademark slogan for human resources on LinkedIn. So Teach Marietta.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the conversation and have a great day.
Have a great day.